Welcome, and thank you all for joining us today. I am so excited to be co-hosting this webinar with Nate Freedman as we walk you through some key points to pay attention to when generating more leads to help you win more deals. Before I introduce Nate and hand it over to him, I just want to cover a few housekeeping rules. We want this to be really interactive, so please have questions, comments. We're going to be asking a lot of questions to you. Please answer those in the chat or Q&A boxes. I'll be keeping a close eye on those throughout the webinar. With that, we want to keep it as lively as possible. So, that way we can keep this going and keep the conversation live as we spend some time together. So now it is my honor to welcome and to thank Nate Freedman, Tech Pro Marketing CEO, for joining us today and taking some time to walk us through this and really help us go that next step as we enter the second half of the year. So thank you so much, Nate, for joining us, and I'm going to hand it off to you now.
Cool. Thank you, Erin. I'm excited to be here. This is my second webinar that I'm doing with Barracuda and Smarter MSP. I'm also really happy that I've had a column in the Smarter MSP blog now for the past 2 years, and I think we're somewhere up over 30, 40 articles at this point that we've put together in that column. So there's lots of useful information there, but I enjoy these opportunities to really connect with the Smarter MSP and Barracuda community. This topic today, generate more leads, win more deals. We're going to be talking about 9 sales principles to turn cold leads into new customers. Thank you for the awesome introduction. My name is Nate Freedman. I'm the CEO of Tech Pro Marketing, where I help MSPs generate leads and grow their client base. It's my goal to help MSPs book 20,000 meetings by the year 2025. So I'm hoping that this webinar today is going to help you guys do some of that, and we can start adding that to our numbers. So if you apply some of this stuff, if this is going to help you win some deals and book some meetings, let me know, reach out to us, and just let me know that it helped. We're going to add that to our tally. Thank you for the housekeeping, Erin. That's right. We've got a lot in store for today. We're going to be moving fast, and I have a lot of information to share, and I'm going to dig into it really quickly right after this housekeeping, but definitely put stuff in the chat, share things. Erin's going to be asking questions. I'm going to be asking questions. If you have a question, don't wait until the end. Just ask it, and we'll try to address it right away. Also, don't worry about taking notes. Don't worry about trying to screenshot everything. We're going to share all the slides, all the scripts, everything we talk about in this webinar is going to be shared with you afterwards. You'll have the link. You don't have to do anything to get it, so don't worry about trying to keep up with it. Just be involved. The last thing is this webinar. This is an informational webinar. I'm going to be giving out a lot of helpful, actionable principles that you can apply to your sales process. There's no pitch. There's nothing to sell. I have nothing for you guys to buy from me right now. So that is the purpose of this webinar. If you are inspired, if you're like, hey, I like what Nate's all about, I like what Tech Pro Marketing is all about, I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to book a call with someone from our team. Okay, and we'll tell you more about that a little bit later on, but I just want to tell you guys right now, this webinar is all about delivering value, helping you guys book more leads, book more meetings, win more deals, and help us get closer to our goal of 20,000 meetings by the year 2025. So we're going to generate more leads, win more deals, and we're going to go through 9 sales principles that are going to help you take a cold lead and turn it into a new customer. I'm going to start things off with a question. So let's go. What are the biggest problems you face when trying to win new customers? All right.
As we wait for some people to answer, I know from our side, some of the things we see, we always hear it, especially for MSPs, they think a thing is pricing. The only way I'm going to win a customer is if I have, the lowest price possible. And, we feel that, it's not all about the pricing, it's about what you have to offer. So I always know that's a big hiccup, or, you're looking for a specific product that, you just define for one customer. And it's like, well, yes, you want to keep all your customers happy, but, you got to think a little bit broader. We do have a few here talking about leads, pricing, showing their value. That's also a really big thing that we see is how do you show your worth? How can you really show your clients why they're paying you a check every month. What's that?
Yeah.
Just finding the leads. Yeah, that looks like a good one too.
Yeah.
Nice.
No, we've hear the same thing. It's like we're working so hard to sell on value. It's like what everybody's talking about. We're all kind of preaching the same thing, that we need to be selling on value. You get into the sales process and it appears that everybody cares about price. So we're definitely going to be handling that and talking about the price objection, how to handle it, but how to just avoid it altogether. And definitely finding leads is a big piece to it. And I think those two things are related. So if you guys are out there, you feel like you're the only MSP out there who's having trouble finding leads, showing value, dealing with people who only care about price, you're not alone. Okay. A lot of people are facing these same things, and a lot of MSPs are getting through it. We're going to talk about some of the ways that we've helped our customers at Tech Pro Marketing get through it, and some of the ways that we do it. There are lots of different ways to do it. But I think if you stick to these sales principles that we're about to go through, they are going to be, you don't have to apply it the same way, but if you follow these sales principles, you will see better results. So yeah, we kind of call it the MSP customer acquisition problem. And this happens to a lot of MSPs that after they've been in business for a number of years, what we've seen is a lot of startup MSPs, or maybe for the first 3-4 years, sometimes to their first decade, we see a lot of MSPs provide great service, have a really raving fan customer base, and they're able to grow on word of mouth or referrals. But when they reach out to us, when we kind of hear about the lead generation problem that Michael was telling us about, that is when they feel like they've hit some type of plateau, right? And it's like, I'm doing great on referrals, I'm doing great on getting customers to find me just through word of mouth and kind of this organic marketing. But at some point, that seems to dry up, and you want to get into this customer acquisition phase where it's a little bit more planned and there's more of a process behind it. But then you get into some of the roadblocks that we talked about, right? So not enough interest, right? Not being able to find enough leads, being viewed as a commodity, everything coming down to price, right? A lot of those things are factors that lead to a low close rate, ultimately slow business growth. And then I think one of the worst things that I've heard, and I think a lot of us have been here, is feeling like you have to please every client, because if one of them leaves, your business can be in a very bad situation. And I think all of us want to get to a point where we're stable enough that, yes, we want our clients to be happy. We want to provide excellent service, but we don't want to feel like, they have to be handcuffed to us in order for us to keep our business afloat. It's not a good situation for anybody. What we're going to be talking about, what we're going to be talking about today. Oh, sorry.
With those problems, have you seen them or heard MSPs talk about how they're growing and being more and more prevalent with the state of what we're in with, COVID-19 and people working from home and things like that? Have you heard that these are coming more and more of an issue, or are there some other issues that have also come to light because of the, the economical state that we're in right now?
I kind of think that, it's still happening, and people are kind of, using the COVID-19 as like I don't know if you're going to call it an excuse, but it's a priority, right? If you say you can't afford something, or something that's down to price, that doesn't necessarily mean you don't have the money. It usually means you have the money, you're prioritizing something else over it. So I think people are using that as a way to say that they can't afford it. But at the same time, I think COVID-19 and, this big transition to work from home has shown a lot of people that they are not getting high quality IT service, and maybe they are ready to switch. So I think it's been like a little bit of a double-edged sword, and I would probably try to take more of the opportunity out of it. So this is what we want to get them to, right? Plenty of interested leads, right? Having a flow of new leads so that you don't feel like, you have to grab onto each customer, each lead, and not let them go. If they're not the right fit, you can let them go, right? When you have that attitude, people are going to look at you differently. You're going to be a sought after expert. You're going to be able to confidently lead the sales process. You're going to have a higher close rate, and then you'll be able to grow your business. And I think most only caring about price and not finding leads, losing confidence, wanting to pull your hair out. But there's another side. You can be cool. You can be confident. You can take a new lead, you can take them through your sales process, and you can win more of the deals than you're losing, and you can win more of your opportunities. So that's what we're going to be going for and teaching you guys some of the basics. And those are the 9 sales principles that I pulled out for today's webinar. This happened to our client, Tim. Okay, this is a case study that we have. We're going to share a video. We're going to hear from Tim at the end of the call. But he's someone who was in a really similar situation, been an MSP for 16 years, has an awesome business, had been growing it for 16 years, but something along that point, it slowed down, and he made the conscious effort to generate leads on his own, to build a customer acquisition process. And what he found was that when he started this customer acquisition process, it wasn't the same as when the leads had been coming from referrals. They didn't know him, they didn't trust him. And in the past where, price was never really an objection because people who come from referrals, they actually know the price beforehand. They're not going to come out asking about price. Now that he had been getting new leads and people didn't know him, all of these things came to the surface. Sales cycle got incredibly long, and we'll hear a little bit about that from Tim, but we're also going to hear about how he overcame these things, how he was able to, get a sales and marketing system that's now able to get his business to grow, I think, even faster than when he had first started and had that massive word of mouth boom. So we'll talk about that. So today, 9 sales principles to turn cold leads into new customers. Let's talk about the first one. Know your sales process. This one is super important because when I talk to a lot of MSP owners, I ask them, what is your sales process? A lot of times I hear something like, oh, well, it depends. I don't know. Like sometimes we'll come out for a site visit. Sometimes I'll send them a proposal over the phone. I guess it depends, how I'm feeling or what they're feeling. And I think it's great that you have the confidence in your sales process to do that. But what I've really found is that if you don't exactly know what your sales process is and you don't have a plan, you're never going to be able to become that confident leader that we showed earlier on. So I'm going to give you guys 2 examples of sales processes that you can use with your MSP. They're for different situations and you can come up with something totally different. But what I want you guys to get out of this is that I want you to have a sales process. So here's the sales process example number 1. All right. This is a 4-step sales process, and I've seen a lot of MSPs use this, and a lot of our customers use this. You start with a qualification call, right? That's when your prospect fills out a form on your website, they call you, you call them, they email you, you email them. However you make that cold contact, your first step in this sales process is to do a qualification call. We're going to talk about exactly what a qualification call is in a couple minutes, but I think everybody knows it's a call where you want to find out if they're a good fit for you or not, right? And this has become a major point of confusion for a lot of MSPs. The difference between a qualification call and a discovery call and an evaluation. What are you doing where? Some people on that first call, they start trying to figure out everything and solve all their problems, within the first 5 minutes of meeting someone. I think what that does, if you don't separate your qualification call from your next step, whatever it is it puts confusion into your prospect, right? It says that, well, the person I'm talking to doesn't quite know what they're doing. They don't quite have a process for this. And if they don't have a process for their marketing, this is probably something subconsciously going on. If they don't have a process for their sales, what's going to happen to me when I actually become a customer? Do they even have an onboarding process? On the other hand, if you know this process and you start leading them through it from the very beginning, it's going to inspire confidence, and they're going to say, if this person knows so much and they are so smooth for this part of the process and I've just met them, I can only imagine what being a customer is like. So in this example, you're going to do a qualification call. You're going to do an on-site evaluation. So at the end of your qualification call, you schedule, you say, hey, I'd like to come visit you, come meet you and check out your systems. Are you free on Tuesday at 2? At the end of your on-site evaluation, you're going to come back and say, hey, I learned a lot. Thanks for sharing. I'd like to come back and present my proposal to you for my solution. Okay. And at the end of that, that's when you can sign them up and they can become their new clients. So this process, you say, all right, my sales process is a 4-step sales process. I do a qualification call. an on-site evaluation, a proposal presentation, and that leads into my new client onboarding.
Hey, Nate, we've had a few people
Sure.
chime in. Yeah, they're wanting to know what should a qualification call entail, and when would you decide to not work with a potential client?
Sure. So the qualification call, I'm going to jump forward and I'm going to come back to this. So this is my number 2, is you want to qualify your prospects. So the qualification call, what that is it's a 15-minute phone call where you're going to do 3 things. Number 1, you're going to make a connection with your prospect. You're going to start building that relationship. We know that in this industry, relationships are super important. You want to have retention with your clients. You want them to be long-term clients, and you're not going to do that with a poor relationship. So you want to start building the relationship as early as possible. So you don't want to go into this qualification call and just try to qualify the prospect, right? Just say, okay, and what's your annual revenue and how many seats do you have? Okay, yeah, it sounds like we're a fit. They're going to see you as somebody cold who's, I don't know what they're going to be thinking that, but you do want to make a tiny bit of small talk, and then you want to qualify them. You want to find out, how many computers do you have? Have you ever paid for IT before? How much have you paid before? Do you know what a managed services provider is, right? It might be hard for you to work with people who are coming from an IT guy that they pay $20 an hour. That may disqualify them for you, right? At the very least, you want to be very, very aware of that before you get into a long sales process with them. It's a lot different than somebody who's coming from an MSP and they're used to paying $1,500, $2,000, $3,000 a month, whatever they're currently charging. So I think in terms of the qualification call, make a connection, make a little bit of small talk, build a connection, find out where they are, have something in common, qualify them, and then set your next steps. Explain the rest of your sales process and get them moving into it. What you don't want to do is what I talked about earlier. You don't want to have some type of, mixed meeting where you're qualifying them, then you're answering their questions and solving their problems, and then you're talking about the benefits of Microsoft Teams versus G Suite, versus Zoom and security issues. You don't want to go there because that's letting them lead, and they don't know the right way to buy IT services. They don't do it all the time. You, on the other hand, sell IT services all the time. You have a sales process that we already talked about that, and that works at this point. So at this point, yes, later on, you want to listen to their problems, and that's a huge part, but you don't want to do it at this part. You definitely don't want to solve their problems. And at this point, you really, really don't want to sell them anything because you don't even know if you want to work with them yet. So that's the agenda for the qualification call. And I think, deciding whether you want to work for them, you have to set your criteria for exactly what that is. And you know what a good client is and what a bad client is. And this is your opportunity that when somebody says a red flag, you can stop them and say, hey, you know what? We've had clients who've come to us in the past where they are, used to paying $20 an hour for an IT technician. And we've just found that when they come to us, it's really a big shock and it usually doesn't work out. So if you're not in that mindset that you're going to be paying a lot more for IT, then we might not be the right fit. And you can stop them. That's going to do one of two things. They're going to say, hey, thanks for your honesty. Yeah, I really can't afford it. Or you'll do what happens most of the time, right? They'll say, oh, no, actually, well, I could spend more. I hadn't thought about it much. Tell me more about it, right? And then you've already flipped. The pricing is gone now. You know what I mean? The whole pricing issue. So that's the basics of qualification. So your first step in your sales process, here it's qualification. In this process, I'm saying you go and do an on-site evaluation. Then you do a proposal presentation. You move that into your new client onboarding. This is one example, and this is a 4-step sales process. This works when you have a relatively low-priced offer, okay? So if you're used to working with businesses that have, 10 or fewer employees, 5 or fewer employees, then this might work for you, right? Because you can come in and you can say, hey, it's $500. It's going to be $1,000 a month. And for something like that, people may buy it after 4 interactions, right? They may buy it after a short sales process. But if you come in after 4 meetings and you say, hey, it's going to be $30,000 a month, that might be a little bit of sticker shock because they don't know you that well yet. And in 4 meetings, how much can you really uncover of their pains, and how sure can you be that your solution is the right solution for them? So the next example I'm going to show you is this other kind of common IT sales process. And this is another great one to use. This one is where you're selling a technology audit, right? Instead of doing an on-site meeting just after the first call, right? In this case, you're doing your qualification call, then you're moving to a discovery call. So in this case, you do your first 15-minute meeting, but then you go to a discovery call where you're not doing an on-site audit yet. You're not counting their computers. You're just trying to learn about them to see if they're a good fit for your technology audit. And then I think a lot of MSPs, they know their technology audit process already, right? You deploy your agents, you go do an on-site, you do a policy review, you test their backups, whatever else is involved in that process. And that leads to your solutions presentation, right? Because this sales process is a little bit more bespoke. It's something where you're doing a little bit more research. You're going to need more time to present your solution. You need a first solutions presentation to get your main idea of what you're trying to accomplish across. And then the proposal presentation really goes into the details. So you've got 2 lines here, right? 2 different paywalls. Your first one is for a technology audit. The second one is for the new client onboarding. And in total, where the first sales process was 4 steps, this one is 9, and it might even be more depending on what's involved in your particular sales process. And the key here, the thing that I want you guys to know is that these are 2 examples of sales processes. They both work. You can use these. That's cool. But the key is just knowing that you have one and knowing what it is and being able to write it down and say what it is. If you aren't able to know your sales process and recall it right off the top of your head, it's going to be very easy for clients to take over your sales process and start leading it the way that they want, which is not going to be in your advantage. Okay, so number 2, this is qualify your prospects. We talked about kind of what this is. Thank you guys for asking about this earlier. And yeah, the qualification, it's huge. Not only do you do it in your sales process, but it's something you can start in your marketing, right? If you've ever seen on an MSP website, something like who we work with, who we don't, right? I think that's one of the best sections to put on your MSP homepage is who you don't work with. Because you want to let people know that you have standards, right? That you are very picky about the types of business that you work with. It's just a psychological fact that people want to work with people who are exclusive, that people who don't take anybody on. If you give off the feeling, if you give off the vibe that you're going to work with anybody and you just accept anyone, it's going to hurt your close rate. People are going to see that and they're not going to be attracted to it. But if you make it seem like it's going to be challenging for them to, they would be lucky and honored to work with you, it's going to make a lot of a difference in your entire sales process. So number 2 is qualify your prospects.
Hey, Nate, before you go on, sorry, a question has popped up from your previous slides where you had them more of the 9-step calling. Is each of the horizontal boxes a separate meeting, or would you combine some of those to get some of the information at once?
So I personally believe that the more meetings you can have in your sales process, the higher price you can charge. So I know it's sometimes tempting to combine the meetings, but I would always say separate as many of the meetings as possible. Make yourself as kind of ingrained into their business as you can throughout the sales process, so that at the end, if you've had 7, 8, 9 meetings with them, they're going to be like, oh, I've already been working with Erin for 3 months. I would never go to another IT person, even though you've only gotten through their audit already, or however long it takes. I've already met this person like 10 times. I already know so much about her. I want to work with her now. So I would say don't separate those. And even though it's awkward and it might be difficult at first, you'll find ways to do it, you know? So at the end of our qualification calls, a lot of times people come and say, oh, I just have a question. You know, you can say, hey, great, I really want to answer your question. I actually only scheduled 15 minutes for this call today, and I want to make sure that I can totally answer everything that you have and want to totally hear you out. So rather than you saying it now and then we have to repeat it on the next call, let's just save that for our discovery call.
Awesome. Thank you.
So schedule your follow-ups. I think we've all been in this situation where somebody has kind of come to us and they've said, all right, so great. Thanks for telling me. I'll let you know. I'll let you guys know. And you've kind of done your whole pitch. And then you're in this limbo where it's like, well, okay, you let me know. Like, yeah, reach out to me again in a few weeks. And you're kind of in this position where you're just like chasing this prospect. And it's like, how is that fair? Do you know what I mean? Like, you've got a business to run. Even if you're the head of business development for your company, you've got a job to do. You can't just be spending your time chasing up with people and letting them make the decision on whether you're going to partner with them on their terms. So I think a way to avoid that is to always schedule your follow-ups. So at the end of each meeting, if you don't have something followed up on, something in the calendar already, you need to make sure that you have something in the calendar. And people are going to say things like, oh, well, we'll let you know. I don't think I want to schedule a call with you. If that's the case, then they're basically just telling you no, and they don't want to work with you. So you just save yourself some time from doing some follow-ups for them to just either not respond to you or, just tell you no later on. So what we'll try to do is just tell people, sounds like maybe that switching your IT right now is not the highest priority for you. So if you're not willing to schedule another follow-up call with me, it probably means that you're not going to be able to go into our onboarding process, which is a pretty intense process. So what I'd like to do is maybe I'll reach out to you in 6 months or maybe a year or something, and we can reconnect then. So if someone's not willing to schedule a sales call with you, it's going to be really hard for them to schedule an onboarding call. So schedule your follow-ups. And you guys, if you're able to kind of put these things together and you've got your sales process and you really have nailed the qualification call, and then you're going to be able to start really writing the scripts and knowing exactly what to say at exactly the right time. So for this sales process right here, and this is the one where I'll just say it one more time. We're going to do a qualification call. Then we're going to do a discovery call. And at the end of the discovery call, we're going to pitch a technology audit. I'm going to explain exactly how you can do that. So I think I'm not going to go into what goes into a discovery call on this particular training today, but a discovery call is basically you're spending the time trying to discover about their business, learn about their needs, and try to find the pains and what their goals are for going forward. And usually a technology audit is a great solution for that. So I'm going to explain how you might pitch that at the end of the call. You're going to get this exact script. Okay, so you guys are going to be able to just download this. You can copy and paste it. You can use it for yourself. Change the city and the year that you were founded. But I think if you read this word for word, you'll be in a pretty good spot and you will get people to say yes to this. So this is how we might end a discovery call where we're trying to pitch a paid technology audit. Mr. Prospect, your situation sounds very similar to a lot of the clients that we work with. We've been helping Boston area businesses with IT issues like you're describing since 2011. What I'd like to do is really take the time to understand your situation on a deeper level and to make sure we're both clear on exactly what is needed to not only solve your current problems, but keep your IT running smoothly here on out. At this point, our next step is to complete a comprehensive technology audit. The technology audit process is done over the course of 3 on-site visits with our team deploying some of our analytical tools and doing some additional planning and research in between meetings. After that is complete and we've built a roadmap and your IT infrastructure, then I'll be able to propose a detailed solution and scope of work for both upfront and ongoing support. As I'm sure you are too, we are really picky about the clients we take on. So this also gives us an opportunity to get to know you as a client before we get into a long-term relationship. The cost for this program is $2,500, and the results are that you will have a clear understanding of your current situation and detailed plan for moving forward. Is that something you're interested in for your business? Okay, so if you guys say that, if you say that at the end of your discovery call, you're going to know yes or no. And if they say yes, and they want to do a technology audit with you, you're going to have a very good chance of winning the long-term MSP business afterwards. So if you put these three things together, you're going to be able to write your own script like this. And by all means, use this exact script if it fits your business model. So schedule your follow-ups. That's the third piece. And that's one great way to do it. So let's ask you guys, so far, what will be the most important to you and why? We've got follow your sales process, qualify your prospects, and schedule your follow-ups.
We got a couple questions coming as well. Is there any interval of time for follow-ups? How can we know when it is the right time to make that scheduled call?
So this is all depending on your sales process. So if you're gonna go through the process that I gave, you'll do the qualification call is going to happen within a day or two, if not the same day of when they reach out to you. The discovery call should usually be within a day or two after that, because you want to keep the excitement going throughout this phase. And I would say for any part of it, you never want to leave them more than like 3 or 4 days apart. So yeah, I would say you want to keep your sales process so that you can have excitement throughout the whole thing and never kind of lose that tension and have it go away and have their focus go somewhere else. You want to keep things like 3 or 4 days apart. If you get to the point where they're like, hey, we're not going to know for 2 months, well, then you do still want to schedule that next call for 2 months later. But that's not your intention. Your intention is to move them along your sales process, which goes within a few days. I would say if you're doing a technology audit, I would think a great way to do it is to do a 2-week intensive technology audit where you get all this work done and you give them this amazing roadmap and it all gets done in 2 weeks. I think that can build a lot of excitement up for you to actually sell the program that's going to be in the technology audit.
Perfect. And then another question I was coming to is, how can we do the same process during this time without going on site?
Yeah, you can totally do this offsite. So I think I think most MSPs right now do have the ability to deploy tools to deploy your analytics if you're doing network mapping or things like that offsite. But I think at this point, because most people are all in a work from home system already, there's not going to be much of a need to go on site. And I think now, especially nowadays, more and more people are already on some type of cloud-based system. So there's less to do on site. And I think all this stuff can definitely be through Zoom. I think the most important thing that you're going to be doing in any of these meetings is not like showing them anything about the technology. It's really just showing them that you understand the pain that they're facing, you understand the problems, and you're really going to try to fix those specific problems. And if you can prove that, I think that's all people want. Like the number one thing we're hearing from dissatisfied MSP customers who end up switching to our clients is, my old MSP didn't listen to me. They didn't care. They just tried to put me in the same box as everybody else. So I think kind of this whole sales process is really more about, just making connection, listening, and just having a sincere desire to help.
Awesome. Perfect. All right. I think we're ready.
All right. So number 4, get your reps in. This one is super important. I would say this one is like one of the most important ones, because the sales process I showed you, and you kind of have some questions about the sales process, you can ask them, you can try to, just apply somebody else's sales process, but it's something that you need to tweak, hone, and refine over time. With Tech Pro Marketing, here's our story. we're in a situation where we have our VP of strategy, Sean. He takes all of our sales calls. He handles our entire sales process. But as the owner of Tech Pro Marketing, as the CEO of Tech Pro Marketing, I couldn't hand that off to him until I knew I had a process that really worked. And for me, that took over 100 repetitions of speaking with MSP owners, practicing my process, making a tweak, making a change every single time until I had the perfectly refined process. In the end, what happened for us is Sean, on his very first sales opportunity, he was able to close the deal. So a lot of times I hear from MSP owners, oh, I tried to hire a salesperson and it just didn't work. But every time I hear that, I also hear, well, what sales process did you have to give them? Did you have any scripts? Did you have anything for them to follow? No, I thought they would have that on their own. Well, here's the thing. If you're going to hire a salesperson who's going to bring that, they're going to be very expensive. You're going to be looking in the $150,000, $200,000 a year range to get a salesperson who's going to be able to bring doing the sales process as well as creating it. But if you want to get a salesperson who is going to operate your sales process and win customers for you, you don't need to pay that much. You can get someone who's less experienced, but if you give them the process, give them the scripts, give them the objections, they're going to be in a much better position to do that. So getting your reps in is a huge thing. And that's one of the things I want to talk about on this call is really that's what we're all about at Tech Pro Marketing. We help MSPs generate more leads so they can have more conversations. We want our MSPs to close those leads. We want them to become their customers, and that's the purpose of it. We're not trying to generate leads just for the sake of it. So we want to help with any other way we can, right? That's why I want to do trainings like this. I want more MSPs to get better at sales, but the truth is you need repetitions. If you're only going through the sales process 5 to 10 times a year, it's going to be hard to get good at it. So what we have is we have an offer. If you guys want to book a one-on-one strategy call, you can do that, right? What we're going to do is we're going to help you get clarity, get clear on your sales, on your marketing. What's the right next step for you, okay? We're going to see if you're thinking about hiring a salesperson, talk to us first, and we'll try to give you some insights on what we've seen works for where you are in your MSP and where you are in your lead generation journey. If we're the right fit to help, definitely we want to talk about that with you, but we're going to figure that out on this call, okay? And then we'll talk about the next steps. So if you want to do that, we've got the website right there, techpromarketing.com/strategy-call. Okay, you guys can visit it right now. There's a little form. You guys can see it on the right side of the screen. Gives us a little bit of information. Make sure that you're qualified. I'm assuming, most smarter MSP readers in the Barracuda community, they're definitely going to be qualified, but fill it out because, we don't want to waste your time if you're not. And, if we can just send you in another direction before even having the call, we will. But for the most part, we're looking forward to talking to you guys. So schedule a call with us. We're happy to do it. Get your reps in. Maybe we'll help you. We'll see.
Hey,
next thing.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Before you go, sorry, we're just getting rapid fire questions in here. It's great. I love it. Is there a good strategy to find customers who are unhappy with their current providers and are ready to switch?
Yeah, definitely. So I think the biggest thing is asking. I think for us, there's a lot of, this is like an MSP lead generation question, an MSP marketing question, and MSP marketing is hard. MSP lead generation is really hard. You're going to find leads in a number of different ways, but it basically breaks down into outbound and inbound. And inbound works because it capitalizes on the percent of the market who knows that they're unhappy and knows that they're getting a bad deal, and they're going into Google and they're looking up managed services provider near me, and they're trying to find someone, and they go to your website and then they contact you. And, if you have good visibility in Google, if you have a good, an AdWords budget, if you have a way of getting to these kind of, buying ready customers, that's definitely one way. But I think most customers are not going to be doing that. And most customers have to get into your outbound and your nurture system. So if you're MSP marketing, if you're doing MSP lead generation, there's a good chance that a big part of your marketing, a part of your lead gen is going to be involved with reaching out to the businesses in your area and finding out their situation. So what we do is on a regular basis, we're always researching and finding out who are the businesses in my area who might use an MSP, politely reaching out and asking them, do you use an MSP and are you happy with them? Right? This might seem like it's intrusive, or you might get some negative responses from something like that. Honestly, I would say 99.9% of the time, we get friendly responses that either say, yes, we have an MSP and we're happy with them, but we'd like to keep your information because we never know. Or we hear the one we really want. Yes, we have an MSP and we're not happy and we want to talk to you. So I think the short answer is, yeah, you have to ask.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cool. So experience share. This is the 5th sales principle that's going to help you take cold prospects, turn them into new customers. Experience sharing is really important because it builds trust, and it shows that you're not kind of like telling them something because you heard it somewhere. You're not telling them something for some ulterior motive. You're actually just sharing your experience and telling them why. And I think experience sharing comes in especially helpful when you're handling objections, right? So I'm going to give you guys a common objection that we talked about a little bit today, but here's the big objection. Why should I pay for a managed program when I can just pay time and materials, right? Why don't you guys just do time and materials? It's like, has anyone heard that objection before? I think so. And this is how you can handle that objection by using an experience share. Thanks for bringing that up. Right? I also think it's important that we address our pricing model. Actually, we used to bill exclusively on time and materials, so I definitely understand why you'd want to consider that type of agreement. However, we found that with our managed services model, the major benefit is that it puts our goals in complete alignment with those of our clients. For example, in the past, we would make more money when our clients had issues because we were being paid by the hour. But now we make more money when our clients don't have issues. If we're doing our job right, then we're proactively solving problems and our engineers can spend their time on more valuable tasks than answering support tickets, right? In the end, we found that our clients value having their systems run without any issues and not needing to submit support requests. And if we can make that happen, that's when we're going to be at our most profitable. Okay, so this is kind of a way of explaining the MSP model and the benefits of that you get your goals in alignment with your customers without kind of just going into why it's better and patronizing or making them feel small or stupid for asking the question. It's saying, hey, I agree with you, but this is my experience with it. So experience share. And you're going to want to use this in a lot of situations, but this is definitely a huge one. Yeah, experience share, number 5. Number 6, serve and return. This is kind of the last, one of the last things you need to think about with the sales process. We talked about the sales process being a lot of different, steps. Do you want to combine them? Do you want to not combine them? And no, you don't want to combine them. But I think another thing that can happen in a sales process is you get really excited about your sales process and you've written out all the steps, and you've written out all the scripts, and you forget to listen to your customers, right? You forget to listen to your prospects and find out what their agreement is. So I think especially when you get to the point where you're doing a solution presentation or a proposal presentation, you don't want to just go through your proposal and say, okay, and then we're going to do this for backups, and then we're going to do this for cybersecurity, and then we're going to do this, and having them sitting there the whole time. Not only are you going to feel really awkward doing it, it's not going to build up the excitement that you're looking for, so that at the end of it, they're ready to sign with you. So you want to play this thing like a tennis match. You want to be serving and returning. Okay, so this is what we do for cybersecurity. Tell them everything. How does that resonate with you? Right? Not a yes or no answer, not do you like that, do you agree, and let them say yes. Let them come back and give their feelings on this. Turn your entire sales process into a tennis match, into an interactive experience you're serving, they're returning, you get a nice volley going, okay? So keep that in mind throughout your sales process. And these are the next three. Get your reps in, experience, share, and serve and return. I'll give you guys a few seconds. Which of these three is going to be the most important for you and why? And just please put it in the chat.
So Nate, as we're waiting, a question has come in. So when your team performs outreach tactics for your clients, are you finding any particular executive profile, whether it's the CEO or owner or CFO, that tend to be the highest conversion rate for taking meetings and signing up for managed services?
Yeah. So I found that, what we found in our experience is that for companies that are suited for managed services, that means, they have enough users to have it make sense. They're a large enough company. It is usually not the CEO or the president. Sometimes it is, and they might be able to reach you to the right person. But in a lot of these cases, the IT decision maker is going to be the COO, the CFO, the controller, one of these other executive positions where they've been tasked with it. It's not, does not hurt to reach out to a CEO or a president. But I think in terms of getting, your number of responses, number one, CEOs and presidents, they're bogged down. They get a lot more messages than other roles in a company, right? A COO, I don't know the fraction of type of outbound messages they get compared to a CEO, but I'm sure it's a lot less. And that's another reason why they respond more. So I think it's the other C-suite members.
Interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that. I would have been right there with them of the president stuff. That's what we kind of look for. So good to know to kind of take that step back a little bit. It makes more sense. And we actually had one more come in too before we move on. It says, why qualifying a lead, why is a qualifying lead so much more important, and how can we do that? Like, how can we make that more of a priority, and how should we get there?
The reason why it's important is because it's your first step in the sales process, and it's going to be what basically sets the tone. And when you have these situations where you're like, why does everyone only care about price? It can usually be solved if you just qualify correctly. So it's like this basic thing that Groucho Marx said, I would never be a member of a club that would have me, that would have me as a member, something along those lines. And it's just this basic thing that we all want to be part of the club that we can't be a part of. And if we can be a part of the club, we don't want to be a part of it. So if you don't qualify, you're basically saying, yeah, I'll have you, I'll take you. And it's like, wait a minute. Why would you take me? And it's just this kind of deep down rooted psychological thing. So I honestly think if you're having trouble qualifying and you're having trouble being clear about it, is just say these exact words. Hey, thanks for contacting me. We are picky about the customers that we work with. So I just want to make sure before we get into the sales process that we're really sure that you're the right type of fit for us, just so we don't waste each other's time. And you know what's going to happen? Most people are going to be like, yeah, we're picky about the customers we work with too. That makes total sense. And I'm intrigued because you didn't necessarily try to sell me something like everybody else has tried to do on the first call. So it's going to immediately show that you're different. So yeah, that's really it.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right. We're ready.
All right. So number 7 is seek out objections and handle them. This one is also super important, and it's something that people miss in the sales process. A lot of times you get into one of these situations I described earlier where somebody says, okay, so I'll let you know, we'll think about it and I'll let you know. What's really happening is they are worried about something. They are concerned about it, and they're not telling you, right? So if you find yourself in that situation, you have to put these binoculars on and find the objection and say, okay, that's great that you need a few months to think about it. Can you let me know what you're going to be thinking about? What's going to help you make your decision, right? Dig a little bit in and then let them tell you, right? And then they might come out with the truth. Oh, well, it's really going to be about price. I'm going to be comparing prices. Okay. So you had a price objection the whole time and you didn't tell me. Well, that's cool. I found it. So when you find the objection, then you're going to use some type of objection handling loop, right? I'm using something here. It's called the AIR model, and there's tons of different objection handling loops, and the link for this is in the slides. But basically, it's what I did with the experience share earlier. Agreement, investigation, reaction. So for this one, you know, if somebody said, oh, it's actually going to come down to price as their objection, cool. I totally agree with you. Price is super important. I'm a business owner. Every time that I make a purchasing decision, I'm obviously looking at price. We have budgets to adhere to. Like, as a business owner, it'd be irresponsible not to, right? Investigate. Let me ask you a question. When you go into price, like, how are you thinking about it? Are you thinking about it in terms of, you know, just overall spend, return on investment? What's your thinking there? Get some more information, deep dive into it, and then you go into the R of resolving it, right? After you hear back from them. Okay, so if we did it like this, would that solve that problem? Oh, it would? Okay, do you still need 3 more months to think about it? Oh, no, you don't need 3 more months to think. Okay, well, what's your other objection? So if you feel like somebody is trying to, I don't know, get away, or they're leaving without telling you something, which happens in most cases, you need to stop them. You have to find out what the problem is and get through it, because if they have an objection and you have this great rebuttal for it, but you never get a chance to do it, what's the point? Because the truth is, most people, they don't like to say objections. They feel bad. They think you're a nice person. They don't want to tell you whatever their honest objection is. So you have to go out and find it. That's what number 7 is about. Seek out objections and handle them. Number 8 is move to a conclusion. I think this is another one that's super important. You don't want people kind of stringing you along, leading you along. What I found is when you get into that situation of a prospect kind of being like, all right, I need 2 more weeks, I need 3 more weeks, I need 1 more month, I can't make this decision right now. The longer it goes, the lower your opportunity is to actually win the deal. So here's what you can say if you get to this point. At this point, I really want to make sure that working with us is the right next step for your business. If it is, that's fantastic and I'm excited. If it's not, that's completely okay too. I think the worst thing we can do for your current situation is to sit on this decision and for your employees to continue having these computer issues. And then you're going to seek the objection. Is there any other information you need in order to make your decision? So think of your job as the salesperson for your business, whether you're the owner, you're the, head of business development, whatever, operations, whatever your role is in the business. Think about your job when dealing with prospects. It's not to sell them to work with you. It's to help them make a decision. And if you're confident in your service and you know it's going to help them, then you'll definitely be recommending your service. But it's just to confidently help them make a decision, So just tell them straight up, like, look, you told me in our discovery call that your employees are frustrated, right? They've been dealing with this issue. You told me that you're frustrated that you don't have any cybersecurity stuff, and you've been asking your MSP about it for a long time. It's like, those are serious problems. I take technology seriously, and I don't think you as a business owner should have to deal with them. So it doesn't matter if it's working with me or not. You really need to solve this problem. So what do you need to do to make this decision? And that's how you can help people move to a conclusion. That's number 8. Number 9, the last sales principle is to help first. The reason why you got to keep this in mind is because a lot of these principles that I described, they're all about being fair, right? They're all about making sure that you are in a position that is equal footing to your prospects, that when you go through the sales process, you're not following their lead and doing whatever they say and they, oh, give me a proposal, give me a price quote, and you're giving them a price quote. That's not fair to you. So what I'm showing you is going to even the playing field, but at the same time, if you overdo it, you can come off as cold, right? You can come off as somebody who's rigid. And it's like, whoa, this guy won't even look at my computer unless I pay $2,500. Like, that's not even what I was thinking. You know what I mean? You might not be able to, people might not want to work with you because you're going too hard. So if you keep this idea that you always want to help people as your first and foremost thing, then you won't fall into that situation. So this happened with a client of ours a few weeks ago. He went out to meet a prospect. They had an urgent issue. He didn't even get a great feeling from them, but he said, look, I'll go back and we're going to work on this issue for you today. You called, you took us up on our 30-minute challenge. We're definitely going to fix it right now. And then at the end of it, he just fixed the issue. He didn't want to work with them because he got a bad feeling from the prospect. And they were like, well, are you going to give me a sales pitch? He's like, to be honest, it didn't seem like you were ready for managed services. So we just fixed the issue and we're all good now. Obviously, that got that prospect so excited to work with him that he would do anything to work with him after that. And he did close the deal, and he did reframe this prospect's mindset from I'm working with a commodity to I'm working with an expert. And now where maybe the situation would have been for sure, that would have been the biggest problem client. Now they're going into the relationship and they're knowing that, hey, we've set the right expectation that this client knows they can't push us around, but they know that we're here to help. So help first, but do everything else I did for the first 8, okay? Let's take a break. Which one of these is going to be the most important to you and why? Seeking out objections and handling them, moving to a conclusion, or helping first? And if there's any other questions, definitely let me hear them right now.
Yes, we've had one come up. How do you retain old clients and focus on new ones at the same time?
Yeah, totally. So I think client retention is really probably the most important thing you can do in an MSP business. And I think finding new clients is also important. So yeah, retaining clients, that's all about basically balancing these two things. It's results and relationships. So people leave their MSPs because number one, they're getting bad results, right? Like their computers just aren't working. Or number two, they're having a bad relationship. They're just annoyed. There's poor communication. The engineers are rude. I've heard that a few times. So I think in terms of retaining clients, yeah, you want to just think about these two things. How can I improve my customer relationship? What can I do in my customer experience to make it better? But number two, how can I give my client the feeling that they're getting better results? Yes, you do want to give them good results, but what's really important is that they know they're getting good results. So as an MSP, a lot of the work that you do is done in the background, like updates, patch management, all these things, like even cybersecurity stuff, network monitoring. Like your clients don't actually see that. They are only looking at the little things. So I think if you're trying to hit that results part of the equation here, you need to just make it clear about what you're doing. So clear reporting, clear client meetings where you're showing all the things that you're doing and just showing them the results. So making results clear and building relationships stronger, definitely going to help you, keep your clients retained longer.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right.
So we've got the 9 sales principles. Follow your sales process, qualify your prospects, schedule your follow-ups, get your reps in, experience share, serve and return, seek out objections, move to a conclusion, and help first. Doesn't matter what you do for your sales process. It doesn't matter if you do a technology audit. It doesn't matter if you try to sell on the first call. If you know your sales process, if you qualify your prospects, if you do everything else in this list, it's going to work. So yes, use everything I gave you on this call. Definitely use it. I want you guys to, but at the same time, apply the principles, as you go forward and get your process going. So I want to draw a line in the sand right now. I want to know, which side are you on? Do you want to leave your MSP's growth up to chance, right? Do you want to go in to each sales opportunity and say, oh, what am I going to do on this one? Or do you want to have a system and process in place for generating leads and turning them into customers, right? This is a conscious shift that you need to take in your mindset, right? It's not just, going out and generating leads. It's not just, coming up with a strong sales process or redoing your proposal. It's making a commitment to yourself that you are going to build something that's going to help your MSP grow and get you to the point that you want in your business and in your life. Tim, we talked about him, right? At this point, Tim now has plenty of practice, okay? He is generating a ton of leads, and he's optimizing his sales process. He's learning his sales process. He's growing. He's natural, like I'm sure a lot of you guys are, You're good when you get in front of people, but now that he's got the practice, he's really got an edge, okay? He's got a system growing his business. We've got a video from Tim. We're going to paste that in chat right now. And you guys are going to get an opportunity to hear from Tim, hear about his experience working with us, but also hear about the things that he's been doing to his sales process. And then the last thing I want to remind you guys is one more opportunity to book a strategy call with our team, techpromarketing.com/strategy call. Again, on this call, we're not going to have a sales pitch for you. What we're doing is we're following our sales process. This is our opportunity to meet you, to get to know you, to see if you're a good fit. And at the end of the call, you'll know, we'll schedule our next call with you. We'll schedule our next step. You'll know what's going on with our sales process. It'll be clear as day, and you'll see it. You'll see everything in there. You have a good idea of what to expect with us. We are picky about the types of customers that we work with, okay? And we really want to find that out, but we also have the help first mentality. So if there's anything we can do to help you guys on this call, we're going to do that. The deck and the scripts, and I'm going to put the video link in there as well, techpromarketing.com/barracuda. If you had some issues viewing the details.
Awesome. Yep. We'll stick around for a few more minutes, see if any questions roll in. We had a good amount throughout the call, so thank you everyone for being so interactive. I know that was a fear of Nate and I of making sure we could get some questions, and you guys did great. So thank you all so much. And so you'll be able to get the deck and everything from Nate, as well as we will clean this up on our end and get it out to you guys. So that way you'll be able to re-listen to this webinar and hear from Nate's mouth what's going on and what's happening. So we should be all set there. And we'll just stick around for another minute or two, see if any questions roll in. But Nate, thank you so much for your time. We want to thank you all. We do have a few questions that have popped in, so we'll get those answered for you guys. It looks like Nate has all the links up for everybody. So on average, how many leads can your MSP partners expect once you ramp up?
Okay, yeah, so for us, like we said, MSP marketing is a challenge, right? And from a marketing perspective, not necessarily from a sales perspective, can be a very long sales process. So if you're, if you think about your market, the number of potential customers that could use an MSP, there is approximately only 5% of that's actually in the market at any one time. So 95% of the market is with an IT provider, either happy with them or under contract and they can't get out. So MSP marketing is challenging, but what we found is when we get going, when we ramp up, and I think building up a list of qualified leads of people who say, hey, let's talk in a few months, is super important as well. Between 2 to 6 highly qualified leads per month is kind of a good metric for most of our MSP customers.
Nice. And then do you have any type of long-term commitment required to be able to join your program and work with you guys moving forward?
For us, we're a month-to-month program. So like, I know maybe you guys have been in a situation like we qualify really well. I'm sure you guys qualify really, maybe you do, maybe you don't qualify really well. We do it. But even in those situations, sometimes we've all been in a situation, it's rare, where we're just it's not clicking with the client. So we're month to month for that person. We want every client to feel like they're getting their value working with us, that they want to continue on each month. And the same thing with us. Like, we want to be able to get out if we just feel like, we thought you were a reasonable person, you're not, like, I don't know, this is different from what you told me during our sales process. Happens from our side too. So now we do a month-to-month process.
Nice. And then what is the number of maximum leads you have to provide to your clients in 1 month?
Like from a minimum perspective, we don't have that. I would say like a maximum perspective, we do have clients who are, probably getting around 10 to 15 decent leads per month. But, here's the truth. Like, we're an MSP marketing agency. We work with the MSPs all over North America in all different markets. And it honestly varies. Like, we have a system, we have a process to get better results and improve and keep getting better results. And we do that. Like, with every client we work on, the results do get better over time, but there are some MSPs that have a better product market fit than others. So like what we found is that sometimes there's just not the level of excitement for one MSP that there is for another. So I think that's like another thing that MSPs need to think about. And I think like, marketing agencies like us, they need to keep that in mind too. I mean, that's another reason why we want to be picky is like, if we're looking at your business and we're like, well, you're having these problems up to this point, sometimes lead gen can't save you. And there's a deeper issue there, so it's all, it all plays together.
Nice. All right. Wonderful. Well, it looks like we've gotten everything answered. Looks like everyone's gotten all the links now. So everyone, again, thank you for hanging with us with some technical difficulties and for your time today. We hope you have a great rest of the week. And Nate, again, thank you so much for taking your time and spending it with me today. And I'm sure we'll get back together here in a few months and do something again. But thank you again, everyone. And we hope you have a great day.